You're paying for a war right now, even if you don't know it. And the people getting that money are doing very well. Some of that money goes to companies. Companies that build things governments need during wars. Those companies are very good at getting paid, even when the war itself isn't going well. This video is about where your money goes and what it turns into and why it keeps going there. When a country goes to war, it needs things: weapons, vehicles, fuel, ammunition, logistics, communications. It doesn't make most of those things itself. It buys them from companies. Large, specialized, well-connected companies. We call them defense contractors. They make the missiles. They build the jets. They run the supply chains. They bill the government, and the government pays with your money. That's the first flow. It gets more interesting from here. Most defense contracts are not fixed price. They use something called a cost-plus contract. Here's how it works. The contractor says, "It will cost us X dollars to build this." The government says, "Fine, we'll pay X plus a guaranteed profit on top." Guaranteed. Not contingent on efficiency. Not contingent on finishing on time. Contingent on spending money. But here's where it gets weird. The more it costs to build, the more they earn. That's a strange incentive if your goal is saving money, which is every business's dream and everyone else's problem. If you're a defense contractor on a cost-plus contract, build it cheaper and your total profit goes down. Build it expensive and your total profit goes up. This is not a loophole. This is the structure of the agreement. Over time, projects get more complex. Timelines extend. Costs rise. Budgets get revised upward. And the contractor keeps billing, which is not ideal unless you're the contractor. And this is the part nobody talks about. Defense isn't one industry. It's dozens of industries chained together. Steel producers get orders. Fuel companies get contracts. Shipping firms get routes. Software companies get systems contracts. Private logistics firms move everything. It's not one company profiting. It's an ecosystem. And an ecosystem, once running, has its own momentum. This is where it gets harder to stop. Defense contracts are not usually short. They run for years, sometimes decades. A single fighter jet program might involve a development contract, a production contract, a maintenance contract, an upgrade contract, a parts contract. You sell one product, you bill forever. This is called recurring revenue. Every business loves it. Defense contractors have perfected it. The weapon, at some point, becomes less important than the contract structure around it. And this is where it stops being expensive and starts becoming permanent. In a normal business, risk and reward are connected. You take a risk, you might profit, you might lose. In a cost-plus defense contract, the contractor keeps the reward, the taxpayer holds the risk. Project goes over budget, the government pays more. Product underperforms, the government buys it anyway. War ends, the contract often continues. Risk has been transferred. Legally, contractually, systematically. This isn't a bug. This is the system working as written. Once this system's running, who has an incentive to stop it? Contractors profit from active contracts. Supply chains are optimized for production. Workers have jobs that depend on continued orders. Stopping the war doesn't just stop the fighting, it stops the money. But here's where it gets weird. Because contractors are large and profitable, they have resources to spend on maintaining relationships with the people who approve the budgets. Senior officials frequently leave government and go to work for defense companies. Defense executives sometimes go into government. This is called the revolving door. It's not illegal. It just means the people making budget decisions and the people receiving budget money often used to be the same people, which is not ideal unless you're one of those people. Here's the uncomfortable part. No one in this diagram is the villain. The contractor is responding to the incentive to maximize profit. The official is managing budgets and relationships. The lobbyist is doing the job they were hired to do. The worker is keeping their job. Everyone is behaving rationally. The system doesn't need a villain to produce bad outcomes. It just needs incentives pointed in the wrong direction. That's the uncomfortable realization. It's not that people are corrupt. It's that the structure rewards behavior that makes war more expensive, longer, and more likely to continue. And no one inside that loop has much reason to break it. Probably, partially, with difficulty. Fix 1. Replace cost-plus contracts with fixed-price contracts. If the price is agreed up front, contractors profit more by building efficiently. The problem: defense projects are complex and unpredictable. Contractors resist fixed pricing on anything uncertain, and most things are uncertain. Fix 2. Longer cooling-off periods on the revolving door. Make officials wait longer before joining the companies they were overseeing. The problem: the people who would vote for it are often the same people who benefit from the current arrangement. Fix 3. Stronger independent auditing of defense contracts. More transparency on cost overruns, contract extensions, and billing. The problem: defense contractors successfully lobby for exceptions from standard procurement rules. Auditing is slow, underfunded, and technically complex. None of these are impossible. None of them are likely without sustained pressure from outside the system, which brings us back to the loop. War is expensive. But expensive for whom and profitable for whom are two different questions. The costs are distributed widely. The profits are concentrated narrowly. The risks are held by the public. The contracts are held by a small number of very large companies. No one designed this system to work this way. It evolved toward the incentives that were available. That's how most systems work. The war isn't the product. The war is the cash cow.
Isn't that amazing?